Hello again, I'm Shia, but I think after finding out about these two verses and no one correcting me, I could be on the borderline of an ex-Shia Muslim. And if you want to say that Shias were never Muslims, who are you to say this? We say the Shahada, and we believe in Prophet Muhammad's infallibility. However, the verses that I'm going to give more thought to and explanation, they are from the Quran that we all share. All the Muslims share the same Quran. So here it is. One thing I forgot to add in my previous video about a Shia discovering shocking verses in the Quran was that continuing from Surah Nur ayat, you see why God put there forgiving, most merciful. First of all, the ones who are compelled into prostitution need not be forgiven. But we are told that God is telling the people who should be forgiving. The people, to make it very clear that Allah is forgiving. However, to remove all this confusion, how to put it and why Allah put it this way, is that why not Allah putting it this way? There is no blame, there's no sin on those slave girls whom you compel, who are compelled into prostitution. And then, so this is very, very important, you see, because then there would be a punishment, and the way here written is so tricky that one could think, when I could understand the English, when I read the Quran in English, I could understand it. It was telling me that Allah is forgiving to even those who compel them or coerce them into prostitution. This is where the punishment is left out very very conveniently, or how could God make this error? No punishment for rape, compulsion in the Quran. Compulsion to prostitution, right? These girls, compelling them into prostitution. No punishment for those who compel them, the sex traffickers. And here it is even written for worldly gains, while they wish to remain chaste. Only if they wish to remain chaste. So please look at this verse properly. Whereas here in Surah Azab 38, why I'm taking you to verse 38, you will find out, because the way it is put, there is no harm in the Prophet doing that which Allah has ordained for him. Such has been the course of Allah. So there's no harm. There's no harm in Prophet Muhammad. There's no blame on Prophet Muhammad. So this is to clarify for the disbelievers and all, everyone who doubts Prophet Muhammad. So no doubt, no blame. Another verse I'm looking in Surah Azab is that there is no blame on you. I think it's in Surah, it's in Surah Azab, but the verse is Surah 5, but there's no blame. See, yes, in Surah 5, verse 5, but there's no blame on you if you make a mistake therein. So Prophet Muhammad made a mistake by adopting a son, Zaid. The adoption was practiced during the pagan times, pre-Islamic times, and that is what he did. And then God said, no, now you must not do this. Although previously when you did it, you made a mistake. He is not your blood relation, so you can marry now. You see in Surah Azab, it's building up to say that you can now marry your adopted son's wife after you divorce, after your adopted son divorces her. So, no blame. Please keep that in mind. Again, going back to Surah Nur, ayat number 33. If God had put here, there's no blame on them, then he could have said Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. It would have been even more clear, right? He could have told the people that Allah is forgiving, merciful, but still, look at it this way: the person compelled, raped, or compelled into something. How can? I mean, there should be no question of Allah forgiving. Most merciful, yes, that they should put their trust in God, that He will provide for them, He will make them, He has mercy for them, He is their consolation. But forgiving, what kind of forgiveness is this? When you're compelled, when you don't want to do bad things, is there a sin on you? Should God be forgiving to them, to those who are compelled? So this is kind of wrong. Whichever way you might come now, explaining these verses, these words, all forgiving, most merciful. Another thing is, do not force your slave girls into prostitution for your own worldly gains. While is makes a big difference, because it gives room for prostitution under consent, while they wish to remain chaste. Please have a look at this verse. This means that prostitution is allowed if consent, under consent of these girls, slave girls. So this I wanted to make clear from my previous video on YouTube, Ex-Shia discovering shocking verses in 2 surahs. Okay, so now I'm really very tired. Let's see if there's another verse that I may talk about. It's very heavy for me to realize this. And also in Surah, let me just briefly put this, Surah Azab, verse 37, like they would, the interpreters will say that God is making them more sure than ever, the disbelievers and hypocrites, pagan Arabs, that you again reminding them by telling through Prophet Muhammad that Allah has more right to fear him, but using Prophet Muhammad. Again, in verse 37, here, you concealed in your soul what Allah would bring to light, and you feared men. But Allah had a greater right that you should fear him. So the religious scholars would say that no, our prophet was he wasn't being warned. But this is wrong, because he did fear the people. So it could have been rephrased, could have been put in other words, like you should not fear. Remember, don't fear the people, as I have told you earlier. And so because Allah has more right, and again in Surah Azab, I think, Muhammad, you are whatever Allah tells you, so pay attention to that. That's like pay attention only to what Allah is telling you, the message of Allah. We could say that yes, that is given to Prophet Muhammad for the disbelievers and hypocrites to stress on paying attention to what Allah is giving. So pay attention to, like here in verse 37 of Surah Azab, God could have said, pay attention only to me and being dutiful to me, than to the people, fearing the people. Remember, pay attention to me and do not fear the people. But you feared the people. You see, you feared the people. Again, this is Chakra's translation I read, 33 pictal, Surah Azab, 37 pictal again. You feared the people. Allah was, and thou didst fear mankind, whereas Allah hath a great, better right that thou shouldest fear him. So you see again a misphrasing, like didn't I tell you, don't ever fear people, and don't fear people, just pay attention. Allah's words, Allah's rules, Allah's whatever they are, principles, or so pay attention to Allah, fear Allah alone. That is okay, like fear Allah, because he's also told Zaid to fear Allah and keep his wife. Better right, and Allah had the better right. So this is for the pagans who would object to this, when the law is coming out now that you can marry your adopted son's wife. When your adopted son divorces her, because your adopted son is not your real son, and blood relations are nearer, and those are just assertions that you make, but you made the thing, a mistake by following the pagan laws of adoption, what the pagan practiced. So here again, like wordings are wrong, because you see it says that you feared people. the wordings should have been if God had to tell the pagans and remind them that this prophet does not fear any person, and because it is God's law coming down, right? But here in verse 37, it says Prophet Muhammad feared the people. So this is something which shouldn't be there, as Prophet Muhammad. We believe, the Shias believe that he is infallible, a mercy. He has come as a warner. He only fears Allah and no one else. He does what Allah says and wants him to do, and nothing else. Nothing short of Allah. But here he has come short of Allah and feared the people. So, very shocking to discover this. And very shocking in Surah Azab 37, verse 37, then in Surah Nur, verse 33. Right? Very shocking that no punishment for those who compel prostitutes, and if consent is given, then prostitution is allowed in Islam. By this verse, room is kept. And forgiving to whom? Again, what is Allah trying to say to the people? That these women forgive them. Something is wrong here. So Allah could have put, no blame is on you if you are coerced. But I don't know why Allah put it this way, to even then forgive such a tricky thing. Like if you really read it and understand it, you know, how not to get blinded by Rasulullah. You know, the previous verses say, you are an example, the best example Allah has set forth for humankind and all this. And then we would think, how can this be true? So I'm going to stop now. Thank you so much.